Hello and welcome to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. This week's episode, our guest in the studio is the Supervisor of Elections. Really good to see you again. Mr. Mohammed Saneem, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and Bula Vinaka to all the listeners.
Vinaka, and we also have here our friend, she's the Stakeholder Awareness Officer, Dengu Bambana. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you.
Wonderful. Anyhow, it's all going to be about general elections. I know so fast. That's how time goes, right, Mr. Saneem? And our next general election is in 2018. Is that right?
Yes, under the Constitution, the next general election can be scheduled in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So this is something I was thinking about. Do we need to re-register in order to vote for the next in the next general elections?
Thank you. I think that's one of the most frequently asked questions these days is when we go out in the fields, people say, do we have to re-register? I am already registered. So the answer to that question is simple. You don't have to re-register. Once you're registered, the system, we have an electronic system, you're in our database, and we will keep you in that database until and unless you pass away. So that's how the data is maintained.
Yes.
And so you don't need to re-register.
Okay, but does the card expire?
There is no expiry date on the card. One of the things with being a responsible citizen is that if the details on the card change, or if your looks change, you can come to us and we will replace your card. We will give you a new card, but there is no expiry date on that card.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. And you mentioned about if someone has passed away. That's interesting too. So maybe you'd like to share information on that.
Yes, well, if someone has passed away, the Fijian Elections Office will require a notification to us so that we can then enter that in our system and remove that person from our voter list.
Oh, that's important.
Yes.
So, yeah. Have you had people actually get in touch with you to say that their family are deceased? Have you?
Yes. In fact, we've made this very easy. We've prepared a form, which is a confirmation of deceased voter form. And this is available on our website. All the person needs to do is download this form, fill in the details, do a declaration that the contents are correct, and they will send this form across to us. We will verify this against the Ministry of Justice Death Registry,
right,
to confirm if the details are accurate, and then we will place the person in the list of deceased persons in our voter roll. So it's a very simple process. There is no fee. And it is simple. Just download the form, fill in the details of the deceased person, give us your details and contact details so that we can confirm this, and we have removed the person from the voter list.
Okay, another question. What about if someone doesn't report that someone has passed away? What will happen then?
So annually, the Fijian Elections Office runs an adjudication exercise, which is what in simple terms we say data cleaning exercise.
Okay.
We rely on data submitted to the Birth, Deaths and Marriages Registry in terms of deceased persons, and we take the list of those deceased persons and find them in our voter list. Then we send a letter to the next of kin of the deceased person to confirm whether the information is accurate, and once we receive that confirmation, then we remove the person from the list.
Okay, Vinaka, Mr. Saneem. So maybe we'll go on to what you've been doing right now. And this is the 2016 School Voter Registration Drive.
Yes.
I know that, when did it start? Was it yesterday?
Started on Monday?
Yeah, we launched yesterday at Suva Grammar School.
Okay, Suva Grammar School. So how has it been going?
Well, so far so good. After day one of our 2016 school voter registration drive, we managed to register about 490 18-year-olds at the schools that we visited, which was about only 5 to 6 schools that we visited, and we managed to register 490 students.
So you've started where? Like in the Central Division first, or?
We rolled out, we launched at Suva Grammar
Yeah.
at 8:30, and then we had 2 other schools in the Central Division, 3 schools in the Western Division, and 3 schools in the Northern Division.
Oh, I see. So
Nice.
that's-
Simultaneously, yes.
Oh, okay. So this is the pattern of how it's going to go.
Yes, the idea is to, this time, due to the events of Cyclone Winston,
Yeah.
We're covering urban-based, not the red zone. We're covering the urban-based schools first, and then
Okay.
we will progress towards the outer islands and Winston affected areas, because we want to give as much time for those areas to get prepared as much as possible. So, but we see no reason not to do registration in the urban areas where the minimum impact was recorded, and also where the students are more available to us.
Yes, and I have noticed you're doing this really early, which is, I'm sure, a very good thing.
Yes, I mean, Luis, when we were in 2014, we did a talkback show just before the writ was issued, and you would remember we predicted that there will be a last-minute rush.
As there always is.
Yes, and indeed, if you look at the photos from 2014, on the last day of registration, there was a massive crowd at all registration centers, and we were standing there and thinking, really, this many people did not register till now. And so we had to beef up our numbers in terms of registration teams and all. So what we're doing now is the approach is that we'll find a lot of 18-year-olds, newly eligible voters in schools confined within the vicinity of one facility, one-year institution. So we go to these institutions and we do registrations there. And before they go and scatter into the work field or into the tertiary institutions, we are able to capture a lot of them at the schools.
Oh, very good. So how have the children reacted to it so far? Did you go and have a look at the schools?
Yes,
Django?
I had the pleasure of witnessing Suvagramma. The reaction was positive. I think they were very excited, actually. They're looking forward to having a voice in the next election. And I just can't wait. It's what everyone is saying.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit, they feel empowered after registering to vote.
Oh, well, that's excellent. Yes. And
See, with the registration, we add a little bit of information session for the students to give them not only a background as to what a background, or you say information on the responsibilities of a registered voter. We also give them some information about what can be done with your voter card, what sort of rights you now enjoy, your participation level. We also talk about Parliament.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. But we'll get back soon, Mr. Sanim, on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Speak your mind. Thank you a lot for your company. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. We have as our guest in the studio today our friend, and that is the supervisor of elections, Mr. Mohammed Sanim, as well as stakeholder awareness officer, Vengu Babana. Now, we were talking about, before we went into the break, how you spoke about the children. Now, of course, you are doing your 2016 school children voter registration drive. Now, I was just thinking about the age, right? You did mention the age that they have to be how old?
18. They have to be 18. On the day of registration, the voter has to be 18.
Okay, so you figured it out, obviously.
Yes.
So they from now, how old would they be now? 16?
No.
Oh, okay.
So it works like this. When we go to a school today,
right,
we will only be able to register students who are 18 today.
Oh.
So we do not do advanced registration.
Oh, okay. So you don't do advanced registration.
We only
right?
do a registration on the day.
Yes.
This is because in the event there's a by-election next week. It won't be next week. It will be 44 days from this week. But in the event there's a by-election, we cannot have voters on the roll who are not within the requirement age limit, which is 18.
Okay.
So that is why we only register you if you are 18 on the day of registration.
Okay, so you are just going for school children who are 18 right now?
Yes.
Okay, and what about those school children who will be 18 when 2014 elections come? 2018.
Thank you. That's a good question, because yesterday one of the new developments from our school voter registration program, we decided to give out forms to those who will be turning 18 probably next month or towards later in the year or maybe next year.
That's right.
And along with that, information on how they can fill in the registration form when they turn 18 should they choose to register. Okay, so they have it with them.
Yeah.
So if you, because I know, I could sense that some of them was like, how about I just register now? And then, you will have to be 18 at the day when registration is done that you can actually register. So with them, with the forms that we give out, then they will, when they're 18, they can fill that in and they can visit any Fijian elections office near to them and get registered to vote. But they should be 18 on the day of registration.
I see. Well, that's clear enough. Thank you very much. But yes, you were speaking about how you were talking to the children and how you've been giving them information. I suppose this is to encourage them to want to vote because voting is not compulsory, right?
Yes, voting is not compulsory, and also registration to vote is also not compulsory. But it's always a good practice to tell them what's the end product. And what can happen. So we talk to them about parliament. We do some general knowledge quiz questions about what parties are in parliament, how many members of parliament, who's the speaker, and we got some very interesting discussions going on, especially in terms of agreements within the students as to how many seats was with the ruling party and how many seats was with the NFP, and we also shared some elections jokes with the students. One of them is very interesting, is the Social Democratic Liberal Party, short form is SODELPA.
Right.
Right? So Social Democratic Liberal Party, the short form SODELPA already has party included in the short form.
Okay.
So we told them the correct way to pronounce the name of this party is either SODELPA or Social Democratic Liberal Party, not SODELPA Party.
SODELPA Party,
Yes.
right. Okay.
So it's interesting. We want to build the capacity within the young adults so that they're able to understand what the facts are and what the law says and how they need to perform in the electoral environment.
Exactly. I mean, for children, you've got to get them interested. Do you think they have, they do study this in school? Do they? Politics? Or is that in university?
They will probably have it social science because I know from work experience that the Fijian Elections Office has been approached to compile some sort of curriculum just to help students. So this would be in the year 9, year 10 category, where social science, where they are beginning to be introduced into this. Introduced into this, the whole idea of participating in the democratic process and so on and so forth. So I believe that they have a fair idea. It's not so much lack of interest, it's just lack of information, and that's something we're going to be working very, very hard on, is to make sure the right information is going out to these young people.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're doing it really well right now. Just as Mr. Salim was saying, having all these discussions with the children, laughing, and sharing the knowledge with the children.
Yes, yes, and the Fijian Elections Office has a multifaceted approach. So we have a Facebook page with about 30,000 people on it. So that's a very, very vibrant means of conveying this information. And what we're doing right now is that when we're registering schools, we take a video of the students with their cards doing their school cheer. And we're posting that on Facebook. So that's generating quite a few interesting comments as well as views. And excuse me, as the latest... the Suva Grammar School's video has already attracted about 7,000 views on it.
There you go.
And yesterday we posted one for Ratu Selala Sukuna Memorial School. That one also has got about 5,000 views on it. So there's quite an interesting level of activity in terms of school children only. So we'll be posting more videos, and later on today, we've got Marish Brothers High School, so expect a little bit of noise from there. But we're trying to integrate these electoral areas into their normal understanding, normal day-to-day life. So social media is now part of day-to-day life, and so we're taking full advantage of that.
Okay, so you have been teaching them about Parliament, and
parties,
candidates,
what is a whip in Parliament, and so these are interesting questions that they ask, and then we have to give them some examples of what's happening, and so yes, we're very impressed with the level of interest that we've seen from students, And we also wanted to, at this point, thank the Ministry of Education and School Management for facilitating our visits. The schools have been very, very responsive to this. We're thankful to all the teachers that are helping us out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Saneem, and also Vengu. We'll be back for more on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Speak your mind. Speak your mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is your only classic hits radio station in Fiji. This is a live radio talkback. If you have any question, you can call 3220907. If you have a Digicel phone, 77329907. Our guest in the studio, we have the Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Mohammed Saneem, and we've also got the Stakeholder Awareness Officer, Dengu Bambana. Now, just say, for instance, if my mother was sick and she couldn't get to vote, be able to find her way to vote. How do you cater for cases like this?
Well, typically, one of the requirements for registration of voters is that you have to register in person. You cannot register on behalf of anyone else. Now, in circumstances where the person who would like to be registered cannot register himself or herself in person, then we will require you to just give us a call and just say, oh, my mother is sick, and give us the details, and then we will arrange for a house visit to actually register your mother at her home, her residential address. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that one person gets registered to vote, in that sense. So only in those circumstances. Otherwise, one of the requirements for registration is that you have to register in person.
Okay, well, that's great. Very easy, I must say. Yeah, so just another important question. I think I've asked it before, but we better make sure. Is voter registration compulsory?
No, it's not compulsory. Voter registration is a voluntary exercise. And as the Fijian Elections Office, we always encourage everybody to choose to register.
Okay, so I mean, I suppose it's also your job to convince people why it's important to register and to vote. Maybe you could answer that question.
Let's put it this way, Louise. Excuse me. In the 2014 general election, we had registered 591,105 voters.
Okay.
Out of the 591,000, 500,078 people voted.
So how much was less from that 591?
Well,
about
let's just say
roughly.
the turnout was 84%, which is beyond, which is well above international figures. Like in India, world's largest democracy, the turnout is 55 to 45, 65%. So Fiji is on a good side, 84%. 2006 general election, it was 69% according to international IDEA.
Oh, okay.
So, as you can see, in Fiji, the level of political activity in terms of voting is very high. A lot of people turn up to vote, the thing that happens here is that you will get left behind if you don't register, because on election day, only those who are registered will be able to vote. So if a person is not registered, on election day they just cannot turn up and say, look, I want to vote. You can only vote if you are registered. So the opportunity is now, the time is now. Get yourself on the roll, and then when you change your details as we get closer to the elections, that will be an easy process for us to just do a change for you, so that you don't have to wait in the long queue to say, I want to get registered. And in the 2014 general election, people came and complained, hey, I couldn't get registered by 6 o'clock. And I said, okay, the registration's been going on since 2012. So there are certain persons that we know, prominent people who registered on the date the writ was issued, the last day. And they all came in and they said, oh, man, I had to come, I have no time. But they all came. And so what we decided was we're going to make these very, very accessible. We're going to go to all festivals and things that are happening around the country to allow people to register at their leisure.
Right. Okay, well, so there you go. And it also makes a really nice ID, I reckon.
Yes, the Fijian Elections Office EVR card is now one of the most prevalent cards in the country. It is, firstly, it's a free of charge ID card, so there's no cost associated with it. We replace it free of charge as well, but I must warn voters that they must declare honestly on their applications for replacement, because the penalties are quite harsh if they're not giving correct information. Also, the other thing is that the voter card is very simple. It has got a lot of details, so a lot of organizations accept that card readily.
Yes.
And my advice to voters would be keep your card safe and secure.
Yeah, why? I
Yes.
mean, but that's another thing. You know how we had Cyclone Winston. I can
Yes.
imagine there probably would have been quite a lot of cards that have been damaged or lost. So, yeah.
In the Winston exercise, I think the number is 3,390 replacements so far,
Okay.
following the Health for Homes initiative.
Oh,
and
dear.
so our teams are with this with the Health for Home initiative teams,
Mhm.
and we've been replacing cards, and I think the number currently stands at 3,390. But I spoke to Director of Operations this morning to talk about when are we going to do a nationwide drive to ensure every Fijian has their card. And we were informed that we're looking at April next year, well after the cyclone season again, so that we can go into all the areas around Fiji and replace cards
Right.
for voters
Okay.
in the event they've lost it.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, gosh, time is so fast. I mean, you think about it, it's 2016 now. Before you know it, it'll be 2018 again. But
yes.
yeah, Dengu, you mentioned about the children, how 400 and, how much did you say you had registered so far?
490.
Yeah, 490. So are you expecting more? How many children are you exactly, well, not exactly, but roughly expecting after? It's a 1 month drive, isn't
Yes,
it?
exactly.
Okay.
Well, last year we registered about 7,000, 7,000 and a little bit. And this year we hope to achieve the same target and a little bit more.
7,000.
Yes, we're pretty positive about that because Day One has actually told us that it is possible.
Okay, well, that's great. All right, so is there anything else? Okay, we've had that with the children. Now, what is the current statistics on the National Register of Voters of those between the ages of 18 and 20 years old?
The exact number is around 18,000, 18,422. So between the ages of 18 and 20 is 18,422 voters. 21 and 30 is 154,910.
Wow.
And 31 to 40 is 137,743. 41 to 50 is 108,669. 51 to 60 is 95,489. And 61 to 70 is 54,015. 71 to 80 is 23,180. 81 and above is 6,094. The total number as at 2nd of June is 598,522. This information is available also on our website.
Oh, okay, that's great. We'll be back for more on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is Speak Your Mind. We continue with our talk back here with the Supervisor of Elections, and that's Mr. Mohammed Saneem, as well as Stakeholder Awareness Officer Dengu Babana. Now, Mr. Saneem, I believe that sometimes people want to know information about how to fill the form. Maybe you can explain that for us.
Yes, Louis, I think one of the first things to say is that the Fijian Elections Office has included a lot of information that we require in the form now compared to the form that one would fill in 2012. And the reason is that now we have about 95% of the eligible population already on the voter roll. So we are now mindful of people who might attempt to register twice, attempt to register with different names and identities. So to keep those kind of things intact, or to deter people from those kind of activities, the form has been made more detailed. There is a lot more requirements in terms of verification of identity in the form. So we've also made the form together with there's a very simple how to fill out in the form brochure that comes. But for the school registration, we have informed all the schools that to give the forms to the students so that they can take it home and fill it. Now the reason is this: in the personal details form, the students in the form there are some details that we require. So the personal details, they can get assistance from their parents to fill it out, but the most important bit is the details of the contact of the applicant. Now maybe there are some 18-year-olds who do not have a personal phone number, so that is where we will need them to include the details of their parents' phone numbers. There is also a section on details of next of kin. This also requires the student to enter the EVR number of your next of kin. These sections are actually compulsory. The reason for this is because when the Fijian Elections Office wishes to contact a particular voter and we fail to make contact, we will then contact your next of kin. And there are levels of information that we will disclose to your next of kin, not everything, but it is very, very important for the Fijian Elections Office when it comes to contacting the voter. In the 2014 election, we used to send out text blasts to everybody. But if we are able to gather everybody's phone numbers, then the Fijian Elections Office will be able to directly contact you regarding your registration with us.
Right.
For instance, if the Fijian Elections Office finds that the polling venue that you are now linked to is getting full, or it's full, and we have to move voters across, so we will contact you and say, Bula so-and-so, the venue that you have been attached to is now full, and we have to split this venue, and we have now assigned you to this. So that is how we are able to contact the person, and it is very, very important for us to be able to get this information in the most accurate manner. The other thing is, when a person gives us details of another registered voter by giving us the EVR number, in the event of identity theft, we are able to verify. So it is very important. So students can take this form home, complete it, and then bring it to school on the date we have to register them.
I see. Yes. So that's what you are doing now.
Yes. Even for the application to correct voter details or replacement of card.
Yeah, that's really important. Yes.
In these forms, we have included additional details that was not collected since 2012, which is now very, very important for safety and security measures.
Exactly.
And once these details are provided to us, it is entered into our system for every voter. So if someone has time and they see a voter registration team somewhere, please just pop in and give us your additional details so that we can update it in our system. If you haven't yet done it, we will be coming around to your areas later, and we encourage everybody to update their details with us.
Yes.
This only makes the relationship between the Fijian Elections Office and the voter more accessible and convenient.
I mean, gosh, communication is the main thing, and I'm especially for voting.
Yes.
And well, that's good. I mean, they need to even let you know every little thing, if they move or if they change their phone numbers, and it makes everything all the much easier.
Change of address?
Right. Change of address as well is very important. This is something we've been highlighting in our info sessions with students and the general public.
So the change of address, yes?
Yes, it is very important that in the event you move, let's just say when you registered your address at the time of registration at Lot 10 Pico Street in Namboa.
Right.
And then before the elections, you had to move to Corvo. For whatever reasons. Now we will require you to change that address, that address details with us, so we can update your personal details for this very reason, Louise.
Yes.
Because when it comes to elections day, you are going to vote at a polling venue that's near to where you live. So because if you don't, this is what happens if you don't change your address. So you've registered in Namboa, but you've moved to Corvo. then you'll have to travel all the way to Nambua or a polling venue in Nambua to actually vote. And that's very inconvenient.
Yeah.
As the supervisor said, we're trying to make it friendly and accessible, near to you, which is why you will need to continuously update your personal details with us whenever changes occur.
Yeah,
And
because
changes
otherwise it just causes a whole lot of
Absolutely.
inconvenience for everyone and for the day. I mean, it's a one-day election, right? Just like
Yes.
what we had the last time.
Yes.
Yes.
And one of the other things is that because the ID is used everywhere, if your address on the ID is not updated, when you will present your ID to somebody, they will say, but this ID says you live somewhere else. So it's in the voters' interest for other reasons, if
As
not
well.
elections,
Mm.
to keep their details updated in the
Yeah.
system.
So their ID can always be relevant for whatever they want to use it for.
And to add to this, the process is free of charge.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Does it cost
The
anything
process
to
is
do?
free of charge. In fact, we are happy when someone comes to update their details with us, because that means that the person, the spirit is still alive in the person in terms of electoral participation.
Exactly. I mean, goodness me, free. So there you go. If any details need to be updated, make sure I get in touch with the elections office. So you're online, and you can also be called, obviously.
Yes.
Yes.
Phone number is 33162225.
There you go. Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back soon for more. Speak your mind. Speak your mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Welcome back. This is our last segment, and we're talking about elections. Yes, I could even say around the corner, 2018. That is just how time goes. But yes, Supervisor of Elections is with us, and Mr. Muhammad Saneem. Also, we have the Stakeholder Awareness Officer, Dengu Babana. But yes, we can't stress enough the importance, as we were discussing, about how you correctly fill the forms. Dengu, you might like to continue from there.
Right, thank you, Louise. You've seen the form that we've discussed with the supervisor. Now, I noted that yesterday some of the students had filled in Lot 5 Sukanaivalu Road. Right, I'm just going to give this as an example.
Okay.
Because there's Sukanaivalu Road in Lotoka, and there's also Sukanaivalu Road in Suva in Nambua.
Right, so be specific.
Yes, but you've noted that we've put a little space there for you to put a town or a city where you are. There are some roads you can find in Lambasa and also here and in Lotoka.
Yes.
That will tell us, okay, it's Sukunivalu in Nambua. That's just something that we thought we'd highlight in this program.
I think with filling in the form, the idea is not to rush into filling in the form. It's always good to take your time to complete all the details required in the form. And when you present the form to our staff, if you are not sure of something, please do not hesitate to ask them this question. They have been trained to be able to advise you about what the correct way to fill the form is, what information is relevant and necessary. Our staff are able to assist you with this. So even if you are a student or someone who has difficulty in filling in the form, our team would be able to help you out with all the details.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Saneem, how is the Fiji Elections Office finding ways to get newly eligible voters to register?
Yes, I think the school registration drive is one of those platforms.
And it's really good. It's going with the Help for Homes initiative, I believe.
The Help for Homes initiative is a second platform, actually. It's a separate project from the school registration drive. Yes. And in the Help for Homes initiative, about 540 people have also newly registered. So there is a little bit of a additional requirement in the Help for Homes initiative. If you want to register, you will have to provide us with your birth certificate and an ID card already. That's the requirements in the Help for Homes initiative. We do not want people taking advantage of instant registration as a means to get another ID. So we are very, very cautious of that, and as a result of that, we have additional requirements at the Help for Homes initiative. But for school registration, we are okay with the birth certificate, because the teachers actually identify all the students for us.
Okay.
Yes. And and we will be doing some more registration drives later on in the year. We'll be putting out information about that.
Oh, that's great. I mean, so far so good. How many schools are you going to visit in this month-long drive? About? Probably a whole lot.
178. All schools in Fiji.
All secondary schools.
All secondary schools, sorry.
schools.
All
So
secondary schools.
This you started yesterday, so
started
this
yesterday.
week is concentrating just mainly in the areas that you're doing now, and then next week.
Yes. The schedules are actually published in the newspapers, Saturday's paper, Wednesday's paper.
Okay.
And because this activity only targets schools, we have already notified the school principals that we are coming. So whilst the information is being pumped out in the media, direct communication is also being made with the school principals and students at schools.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. I mean, the children must be really looking forward to it, especially after seeing all those likes on Facebook and all the pictures.
I tell you, it's gone viral. It's not even.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, all the better for the elections office, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you're teaching them how to just have that mind of, being mature, being able to vote.
Yes.
So, I mean, not only for our, big children, I should say, but for
adults.
everyone, the
Yes.
adults as well. Maybe you'd like to stress on that point.
Yes, yesterday at the Suva Grammar School, I emphasized to the students that having received your voter ID card, I now classify them as the young adults of the country. And very
Yes.
powerful in nature if you consider the numbers of youths that are there. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be looking at around 200,000 people below the age of 30 or
Wow.
35 actually, if you say.
Yeah.
So that's a major voting block.
Exactly.
And if you're looking at about 590 to 600,000 voters, that's a major voting block and 1/3 of the
Boy.
population, in fact. So it is very, very important for this voting block to first register, to be able to vote. And I think the amount of enthusiasm we saw yesterday amongst students is very impressive, and I think it's going on the right track.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, gosh, like you said, that's a huge voting block. And, just one thing I was thinking, like children, will they normally follow their parents who they vote for? That's just something I thought about, Like, I mean, they should have a mind of their own. I mean, it'll be good if children would be like that, not like if their parents are voting for this party. Okay, we'll vote what our parents are voting for. So, I mean, maybe in these sessions you're teaching them to,
Yes, I think Dengu and I would both agree it's all about your independence.
Okay.
And the way the polling station is set up is that when the person is going to mark the ballot paper, they're all alone at that booth. So the choice is actually guaranteed on the person. There is no coercion, there is no force. Nobody will find out who you voted for.
Exactly.
And in fact, sometimes people come and say, but my son was supposed to vote like this in this polling station, but it's not there. And the answer is very clearly that that person has his own individual right to choose the candidate that they wish to vote for.
Yeah.
And they may not have voted for the candidate that you wished them to vote for. So
Right.
that's all about providing that security in the process for the person to make their own choice.
All right. Well, we're almost ending, Mr. Saneem. Just maybe something that you'd really like to highlight to the public looking into the future of the general elections in 2018, very quickly.
I think the message from me would be that the time is right for those who had not registered in the last election, for students who are turning 18, to take advantage of this opportunity. We are coming to your schools, and we're bringing the registration team to you, and we're leaving by giving you a card. This is an opportune time for you to take advantage and register yourselves. In many countries, you take Bangladesh for example, India for example, you have to go to the registration centers and your cards come 2 months later.
Wow.
But
look at that.
Fiji is different. Fiji is giving you the card instantly, and I would say it's your first ID in some cases. So as soon as you turn 18, even if you are turning 18 later on, please pop into one of our registration centers and register yourself.
Naka, Mr. Saneem, and also don't forget to continually update the
Yes.
details, obviously. Thank you so much, Shudeng, for coming. And Mr. Saneem. Well, that's it for Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Until next week, Nisamo Demanda.